What happened if you wake up in the Arthurian era? Hello, and welcome to Boring Tales of the History, the channel where history lulls you into a peaceful slumber. Tonight, we're diving into a calm, monotonous journey through the Arthurian era. Imagine waking up in the misty, medieval world of King Arthur, knights, and castles. What would life be like? We'll explore no excitement here, just steady, sleepy details to ease you into rest. Let's begin. Arriving in the Arthurian world, you open your eyes, blinking against dim sunlight filtering through a canopy of ancient oaks. The air smells of damp earth and wood smoke. You're lying on a bed of moss, dressed in a scratchy wool tunic and leather boots that aren't yours. This is not your bedroom. This is the Arthurian era, roughly the 5th or 6th century, though historians debate if it ever truly existed. For our purposes, it's a blend of late Roman Britain and early medieval legend. Time of small kingdoms, muddy villages, and crumbling stone forts. Your first sensation is cold. The climate is wet and chilly, with temperatures rarely rising above 15 degrees Celsius, or about 59 Fahrenheit, even in summer. As you stand, you see a dirt path winding toward a cluster of roundhouses with thatched roofs. Smoke curls from the center of each, where an open hearth burns. The village is small, maybe 50 people live here. There are no street signs, no pavement, just churned mud and scattered straw. You realize you're a stranger, speaking modern English, which no one here would understand. The locals speak a mix of Bretonic languages like early Welsh or Cornish, with some Latin lingering from Roman rule. Communication will be slow, but pointing and smiling might help. You notice a wooden palisade around the village, built to keep out wolves and raiders. Life here is fragile. Famine, disease, and skirmishes are common. The average lifespan is around 35 years, though many die in childhood. You're hungry already, but food is scarce. Barley porridge, root vegetables, and occasional mutton. No coffee, no sugar, no spices, just salt if you're lucky. The world feels vast and quiet. No cars, no phones. The only sounds are birds, wind, and the faint clatter of a loom from a nearby house. You wonder how you'll survive here. You approach the village cautiously. A man in a weathered cloak spots you, his face etched with suspicion. A farmer, his hands stained from tending crops like barley and spelt, a type of wheat. He calls out in a guttural tongue and you manage a hesitant wave. Hospitality is valued here, so he gestures for you to follow, leading you to a smoky roundhouse. Inside, the house is dim, with a central hearth, and no chimney smoke escapes through the thatch. Alone, the floor is packed earth, scattered with rushes. A woman stirs a cauldron of lentil stew, while the children peek at you from behind a pile of wool. They're wary but curious. You try to explain where you're from, but your words draw blank stares. You point to yourself, then the sky, hoping they'll think you're a traveler, not a threat. The farmer offers you a wooden bowl of stew. It's bland, thickened with oats, but warm. Meals here are simple and repetitive. Bread, if available, is flat and coarse, made from barley or rye. Cheese and milk come from goats or sheep, but they're rare treats. You notice the family's tools. A wooden plow, a spindle for spinning wool, a flint knife. Everything is handmade, labor-intensive, and repaired endlessly. Social structure is rigid. The farmer answers to a local chieftain, who lives in a larger hall nearby. Above him is a king, perhaps one of Arthur's allies, ruling a territory no bigger than a modern county. Loyalty is personal, cemented by oaths and gifts like iron knives or silver rings. Strangers like you are rare and mistrusted, but if you prove useful, you might be accepted. You wonder what skills you could offer. Your smartphone is useless, but maybe you know basic math or storytelling. The fire crackles, and the family watches you, waiting for a sign of who you are. To survive, you must adapt to the village's rhythm. Life revolves around the seasons. It's spring now, so the men are plowing fields with oxen, while women and children sow seeds. Farming is grueling. Fields are small, yields are low, and blight or drought can mean starvation. You're expected to help, so you're handed a wooden hoe and pointed to a muddy plot. Your hands blister quickly. Work fills the day. Men hunt deer or boar with spears, while women spin wool, weave cloth, or churn butter. Children herd geese or gather firewood. There's no idle time. Survival demands constant effort. You notice the village's economy. Barter, not coins. A basket of eggs might trade for a clay pot. Gold or silver is for the elite, hoarded by chieftains or buried in secret stashes. Hygiene is basic. You wash in a cold stream, using ash and fat as soap. Teeth are cleaned with twigs or left to decay. Disease spreads. Isolissimal pox, dysentery, or infected cuts can kill. Healers use herbs like yarrow or chant prayers, but medicine is mostly superstition. You miss antibiotics. At night, the village gathers in the chieftain's hall for stories. A bard strums a lyre, reciting tales of heroes and gods. You recognize fragments of Arthurian legend knights, quests, a magical sword but they're raw, unpolished, tied to older Celtic myths. You fall asleep on a straw pallet, exhausted, wondering if you'll ever fit in. A week passes, and you're summoned to the chieftain's hall, a timber structure larger than the roundhouses. The chieftain, a broad man with a bronze torque around his neck, sits on a carved chair. His warriors, armed with spears and round shields, eye you warily. This is your first glimpse of Arthurian power, local, personal, and fragile. Kings and chieftains rule through loyalty, not law. The chieftain demands tribute, grain, livestock, or labor. In return, he offers protection from raider Saxons, Picts, or rival Britons. His warband, maybe 20 men, is his strength. They're not knights in shining armor, but grizzled fighters in leather or chainmail, wielding iron swords forged by skilled smiths. Swords are rare, treasured, often named like Wormbane or Shadowcutter. You learn of a greater king, perhaps Arthur himself, ruling from a Hilfort like Cadbury Castle, a real sight some link to Camelot. His court is a mix of warriors, bards, and Christian priests, blending Celtic tradition with Roman echoes. Arthur's legend is forming, built on tales of unity against invaders. But reality is messier. Petty kings feud constantly, and alliances shift like sand. As a stranger, you're tested. The chieftain asks you to prove your worth. You offer to calculate crop yields, using basic arithmetic unknown here. He's impressed, but suspicious numbers feel like magic. You're given a role as a scribe, scratching tallies on wax tablets. Religion shapes this world. Christianity is spreading, brought by Roman missionaries, but it's new and uneven. The village has a tiny church, a wooden shack with a cross. A priest, tonsured and robed, preaches salvation, but many cling to older gods, law, Cernunnos, or river spirits. You see villagers leave offerings of bread at springs, hedging their bets. The chieftain is Christian, at least publicly, baptized to gain favor with powerful bishops. But his warriors mutter prayers to Woden or Tyrannus before battle. Superstition is everywhere. A crow's flight predicts doom, a dream foretells victory. You're asked about your beliefs and your vague answers raise eyebrows. Atheism is unthinkable, Ev. Everyone believes in something. Monasteries, the landscape's stone-walled havens, where monks copy Latin texts, are centers of learning, preserving scraps of Roman knowledge. You visit one marveling at vellum manuscripts but choking on incense. The monks teach you Latin, hoping to convert you. You notice their power. They advise kings, mediate disputes, and hoard wealth. Magic feels real here. A local wise woman, feared as a witch, brews potions and reads omens. Some whispered Merlin's name, a shadowy figure blending druid and prophet. You wonder if he exists, or if every mystic claims his mantle. The village prepares for a feast, a rare break from toil. It's Beltane, a Celtic fire festival marking spring's peak. Bonfires blaze and cattle are driven between them for purification. The chieftain hosts. Slaughtering a pig meat is a luxury. You're invited. A sign you're trusted, if only slightly. The hall is packed, lit by rushlights. Mead, fermented from honey, flows freely, loosening tongues. Food is hearty but plain. Roast pork, oat bread, and boiled cabbage. You're offered a horn of mead, its sweetness masking its strength. Entertainment is simple. A bard sings of battles, lovers, and gods, his voice hypnotic. You try to share a modern story, but it falls flat. Your references to cars and phones baffle them. Festivals bind the community. Beltane includes dances, foot races, and mock battles. You join a tug-of-war, earning cheers despite your clumsiness. Marriage proposals happen here, sealed with hand-fasting cords. You notice gender roles. Men dominate public life, but women wield quiet influence, especially widows or priestesses. The night ends with storytelling around the fire. You hear tales of Arthur's battles, Excalibur, and a mysterious lady in a lake. The stories feel alive, growing with each telling. You drift off, warmed by mead and embers. A horn blares, shattering the village's peace. Raider Saxon warbands are spotted nearby, burning a neighboring settlement. The chieftain rallies his men, and you're dragged along, handed a spear you barely know how to hold. Warfare defines this era, a constant threat in a fractured land. Battles are small, rarely more than 100 men per side. Warriors fight on foot using spears, axes, and shields of linden wood. Cavalry exists, but isn't the shining knights of legend. Horses are small, used by scouts or elite fighters. Armor is leather or padded cloth. Chainmail is for the rich. You're taught to lock shields in a wall, a tactic borrowed from Romans. The raid is swift and brutal. Stay back, watching arrows fly and men fall. The Saxons retreat, but 2 villagers die, their bodies burned on pyres. Death is common. War, disease, or starvation claim many. You realize Arthur's dream of unity is fragile, his battles more defensive than glorious. Afterward, the chieftain speaks of Camelot, a battle some say Arthur fought, though no one agrees where or when. You sense the legend's weight, a hope for stability in chaos. The pyre's smoke stings your eyes and fear lingers. To recover, the village sends goods to a market town, a day's walk away. You join the caravan, guarding sacks of barley and wool. Travel is slow and dangerous. Roads are muddy tracks, and bandits lurk. You cross a Roman bridge, its stones weathered but sturdy, a ghost of a lost empire. The town is bustling, maybe 500 people, with a wooden church and stone walls. Merchants hawk tin from Cornwall, salt from Cheshire, and amber from the Baltic. Trade is vital, but limited. Most goods are local, carried by pack mules. You see a rare Byzantine coin hinting at distant connections, but barter rules. You try to trade your knowledge, offering to improve a merchant's abacus. He's intrigued but pays you in bread, not gold. Towns are hubs of news. You hear of Arthur's court, said to be at Carlane or Tintagel. Travel beyond your region is rare. Most never leave their valley. You wonder if you could reach Camelot, but the journey feels impossible. The market's clamor fades as dusk falls. Back in the village, a dispute erupts. A farmer accuses another of stealing sheep. The chieftain holds court in his hall, acting as judge. Law is unwritten, based on custom and oaths. Witnesses swear on relics or sacred stones, and truth is decided by reputation. The thief is fined a cow, a heavy penalty. Justice is harsh. Theft or cowardice means fines or flogging. Murder demands blood price or exile. Trial by ordeal. Hot iron or cold water is rare but real. You're glad to avoid scrutiny, as strangers often face blame. Women have some rights, like owning land, but men hold most power. The chieftain's word is final, but he consults elders and priests. You notice Roman influence? Legal terms in Latin, a faint echo of Justinian's code. Arthur's legend promises fair rule, but here justice feels personal, tied to loyalty and fear. The hall empties, and you feel the weight of this rigid world. Months pass, and you've carved a niche as a scribe, recording the chieftain's tallies and letters. Your modern knowledge, basic geometry, crop rotation earns respect, though some call you a sorcerer. You're given a hut, a straw bed, and a cloak with a bronze pin. You're no longer a stranger, but you'll never fully belong. You teach children numbers using pebbles and sticks. They love your stories of airplanes and skyscrapers, thinking them myths. You avoid talk of the future, fearing accusations of witchcraft. Life is hard, but steady. You plow fields, eat porridge, and join feasts. You've learned enough Brittonic to haggle and joke. Rumors grow of Arthur's court, a beacon of hope. You dream of seeing it, but travel is risky, and your village needs you. You wonder if you're shaping history, your ideas rippling into legend. Rain patters on the thatch, and you feel rooted yet adrift. A messenger arrives, bearing a summons. The chieftain must send men to Arthur's court. You're chosen, thanks to your skills. You travel for days, crossing moors and forests, until you reach a hill fort, perhaps Cadbury, perhaps Camelot. It's no fairy tale castle, but a sprawl of timber halls, stone walls, and bustling life. The court is vibrant yet tense. Arthur, if he's real, is a warlord, not a crowned king, his beard streaked with gray. His knights are warriors, their armor practical, not gleaming. You see a round table or something like it, where men debate alliances. Guinevere, if she exists, is a quiet presence, her influence subtle. You're tasked with recording a treaty using vellum and ink. You hear tales of Excalibur, Merlin, and quests, but they're tangled with older myths. The court feels like a spark, a fleeting chance for unity before darkness falls. You sense history being born, your presence a tiny thread in its tapestry. The hall glows with torchlight, and you feel part of something vast. You return to the village, your mind heavy with memories. Camelot was real, yet fragile, its glory already fading into story.
Ice.
You resume your life, teaching, farming, and telling tales. The villagers listen wide-eyed as you weave Arthur's court into their myths. Life grinds on. Winter brings hunger, summer brings toil. You age your modern self fading into this ancient world. You wonder if you've changed history. Did your crop tips strengthen the village, your story shape the legend? Or are you just a ghost, lost in time? As years pass, Arthur's name grows, his battles sung by bards. You hear of Camelot, his final fight, though you're too old to know if it's true. Sit by the fire, carving a wooden cross, blending your old life with this one. The stars shine, and you drift into sleep, part of the legend forever. Spring has mellowed into summer, and the land breathes a slower rhythm. Mornings are damp and cool, sunlight pooling over dew-slick grass and the heavy, sweet scent of elderflower thick in the air. You walk a narrow path worn by centuries of feet. No cobblestones, only packed earth speckled with snail shells and mossy stones. Ferns reach out from the hedgerows, brushing your ankles as you pass. Today, you travel alone to deliver a message to a remote hill shrine. The chieftain's seal presses against your chest in a linen pouch. As you leave the familiar boundary of the village, the world opens into something older hedged. Lanes give way to windswept fields where sheep graze in silence. On a distant slope, a ring of standing stones leans wearily under the weight of centuries. One of the stones has split, and inside it, moss grows like a velvet tongue. Villagers avoid this place. They call it Yrhen Finan. The old spring Ann say the ground remembers footsteps long erased. As you pass the dolmen, the air stills, as if the trees are holding their breath. A crow watches from an ash tree, head tilted. You feel it sees more than you can. The clouds move slowly overhead, casting drifting shadows like ghosts across the moor. And then he is there. Or you think he is. A man half hidden by heather and mist, dressed in a robe the color of ash bark. His beard is tangled with herbs, and his eyes are as gray as distant thunderclouds. Leans on a gnarled staff carved with spirals that seem to shift as you watch. He does not speak, but the silence says something. You feel the pressure of it, like a wave moving through stone. When you blink, he is gone, but something lingers. A low murmur in the wind, not language, but feeling. The earth feels deeper now, the path older. You walk on, unsure if you encountered Merlin, or simply a memory left behind by the land itself. Behind you, the crow takes flight. It begins with a whisper. Not from a person, but from the land itself. Stone circles on windswept hills. Standing stones carved with strange swirls and ancient oaks that seem to hum when no one is near. The villagers speak of Merlin rarely, and only in hushed tones. They say he was born backward in time, or from a mortal woman and a demon father. Others say he's just a wise man, half druid, half mad. Some saw him once near the river, eyes clouded with visions, talking to birds. One tale tells of him weeping by a spring, naming kings not yet born. The chieftain sends you with others to deliver tribute to a northern monastery. The path takes you near a crumbling dolmen, older than memory. There, you see him, or someone like him. A man in robes, white and tattered, staff carved with ash leaves. His eyes meet yours, and you feel like he sees everything, your world, your time, yourself. He says nothing, only nods. The air stills. A raven calls. When you blink, he is gone. The others didn't see him. But you feel changed, as if something ancient brushed against your mind. A name echoes faintly. Emrys Merlin's name before he was legend. The prophecy, they say, is not written in ink, but woven in time. Merlin's prophecy was never just about power. It was about return. The idea that Arthur, the once and future king, would come again in Britain's hour of greatest need. You hear the tale from a blind bard, old as winter, who sings it as if in a trance. When ravens fly from the White Tower, when rivers run in reverse, when steel returns to stone, then Arthur shall rise again. They say Merlin sleeps too, sealed in a crystal cave, surrounded by whispers and dreams. Others claim he wanders still, walking backward through the years. A monk shares a fragment of a manuscript. Merlin saw all time in a breath and wept, for he knew how much would be forgotten. You begin to dream of him. Not clearly just shapes, fog, and voices. Sometimes he speaks your name. Sometimes he stands at the mouth of a cave, pointing forward, saying only wait. Whether real or not, the prophecy feels like a promise. Or perhaps a warning. Your time in the Arthurian world grows dim. The seasons blur. Children you taught now farm their own plots. You tell stories by the hearth, and they listen like it's scripture. You mention Arthur, and they nod solemnly. You mention Merlin, and some make signs to ward off spirits. Others lean closer. Want to believe. You carve a symbol into your doorway, a star, and a circle something you saw once on a modern page, but now feels ancient. You copy legends into wax tablets, scribbling names. Lancelot, Mordred, Avalon, Guinevere. They may not match the truth, but truth here is flexible, shifting with time and teller. One winter, a boy recites your story back to you about the stranger from the sky, who taught numbers and spoke of flying machines. You smile, unsure if it's about you or someone else entirely. Maybe Merlin was a time traveler. Maybe you were. You have walked through time and touched the edges of myth. You have seen the smoke of ancient fires and felt the heartbeat of a world that was and perhaps never was. The tale of Arthur and Merlin may be legend, but legends are how we remember truths too deep for facts alone. So as you drift to sleep, know that somewhere, in a forest untouched by time, a sword still waits in stone. A king dreams in stillness, and a prophet murmurs beneath the earth, watching the stars wheel above. The message delivered: you remain at the shrine for the night. It is a stone chapel built into a cave, half swallowed by the hillside. The monk who tends it walks barefoot, his robes fraying at the hems, and he speaks with the cadence of someone who no longer fears silence. By candlelight he tells you tales, not sermons, but secrets. He speaks of Merlin not as a man, but as a wound in time, place where the past and future bleed into each other. He speaks of Arthur too not as a king who was, but as a king who waits. Beneath a hill of hollow stone, surrounded by knights in enchanted slumber, waiting for Britain's darkest hour. The land itself, the monk says, will call him back when the need is greatest. You ask which hill? He only smiles and points to the night sky. Later you dream the world is underwater. Stars drift past your face. A sword glows at the bottom of a lake. Above you, a woman's hand lifts it toward the moon. Her eyes are made of mirror glass. You try to speak, but only bubbles rise from your mouth. When you awaken, the cave is filled with dawn light, golden and quiet. The monk is gone. His sandals sit neatly by the door. You hear no birdsong, only the faint dripping of water echoing through the earth. You leave slowly, and as you step onto the moor, you feel it again, that sense of something vast, old, and dreaming just beneath the surface. Somewhere beneath moss and root and stone, a king sleeps. And somewhere else, perhaps beneath the bark of an ancient yew, or the ringing silence of a cold spring, Merlin waits too, not dead, not living, just waiting. You awaken in darkness. Not the darkness of sleep, but the velvet black stillness of below. No wind, no firelight, just stone and silence. Yet, you're not afraid. The earth holds you gently. You feel cool air on your skin, the weight of centuries in the air. You sit up slowly, realizing you're in a cavern, its walls, smoothed by time and moisture. Lichen glows faintly along cracks in the stone, casting the faintest silver-green hue. There's a scent of old water, minerals, and something else. Herbs, sage, yarrow, crushed rosemary. Footsteps echo softly sandals against stone. And then a voice, gentle, old, familiar. You walked further than most. A figure steps into the dim light. It's him, Merlin, not as a ghost, nor fully flesh. He's younger now, not aged, not immortal, somewhere in between. His robe flows like mist, and his eyes shimmer like moonlit rivers. He sits beside you without sound, and time seems to slow. He doesn't speak directly at first. Instead, he shows you things, not with gestures, but with thought, image, dream. You see Avalon shrouded in fog, the Lady of the Lake lifting Excalibur. Arthur, sleeping still, in armor that does not rust. A future rising and collapsing like waves, machines, steel birds. Cities that touch the clouds, fire and silence. He finally speaks. You remember a world from before? That memory is a gift. But to guide those who come next, you must forget who you were. The cave walls shimmer. Etchings of spirals, constellations, swords, and ravens glow softly. Do you see your name among them, written in Agam, the old tongue of trees? Do you realize you never died? You crossed. Merlin does not age. He waits, and you too now wait, for the dream to begin again. You walk through a grove of ancient trees, taller than cathedrals, their roots so wide they form natural halls beneath their branches. The stars above are unfamiliar new constellations. Time has passed. You do not know how much. You are in a place outside chronology, Merlin's memory, or the land's dream. The forest has no beginning or end. Paths curve back on themselves. Stones hum when touched. Ravens speak in riddles. Foxes blink as if they recognize you. Others live here now, figures like you. Memory keepers, dream walkers, perhaps other time travelers, lost souls from centuries distant. One speaks of a city of iron, another of flying ships. All are here now, outside time, waiting, preserving, whispering legends forward like seeds in the wind. And still, Merlin visits. He teaches by silence. When he touches a stone, it glows. When he sighs, rain falls gently. You learn how to listen to roots, how to coax flame from wet bark, how to read the future in fog. But you are changing. Your body no longer aches. Your face has softened into something unplaceable, ageless, unfamiliar. The children of the waking world dream of you now, a firebringer, a voice in the woods. Some call you the quiet scribe, others call you the second watcher. And across the world in villages once known to you, your name becomes myth. He came from the stars, they say, and walked among the kings. He spoke with the prophet. You vanished when the stars blinked thrice. You watch these stories grow, and you do not correct them, because now you are part of the timeless circle. One day, everything changes. The wind howls across the forest with voices in it. The sky turns copper and the trees tremble. A sound rolls across the land like a broken bell, a sword drawn from stone. You feel it deep in your bones. In a cave of mirrored crystal, Arthur stirs. You and Merlin stand together now, shoulder to shoulder, as the circle ripples outward. Riders appear across hillsides. Old banners are raised. In distant kingdoms, forgotten oaths are remembered. A horn, not heard in 1,000 years, sounds once more. You speak with Merlin that night? You ask if this is the final hour? He only smiles. No, hour is final, he says. But some are. Beginning again? Arthur emerges from his tomb, not in glory, but in silence. A man reborn into a world that forgot him. You help him remember. You guide him as he listens. You and Merlin both. And when he asks where you came from, you only reply, I was waiting for you. And so begins another chapter. Not a new kingdom, not a war, but a memory given shape again, a story that never ends, told once more beneath new stars. It begins with mist, cold, gentle veil that clings to your skin and wraps around your cloak. You feel the salt in the air, hear the soft slap of water against wood. You're in a small coracle, a boat made of bent willow and hide, guided by a silent figure cloaked in white. You ask where you're going? The figure simply gestures forward. Ahead, the fog pulses with light blue, gold, and pale violet, as if dawn is dreaming in colors unknown to the waking world. You pass floating reeds and lilies, swans that do not blink, and willows whose branches trail like fingers into the water. Time seems to stop. You drift for what could be hours, or centuries. And then you see it. Avalon, an island that glows softly through the mist. Its shoreline curves like a crescent moon with white stones that shimmer in hues of silver and pearl. Orchards line the slopes, apples hang heavy from trees whose bark shimmers like polished bronze. Tall towers rise beyond the hills, entwined with ivy that blooms year-round. The boat glides to a halt, and the figure nods. You step onto the shore. The moment your foot touches land, the air changes. It's not warmer, just clearer. The world here feels awake. You are not alone. Robed figures move slowly along paths of moss and marble. Some look like monks, others like warriors. A few look familiar, as if you knew them once in another life. And always you feel the heartbeat of the island beneath your feet, slow, steady, like the land itself is breathing with you. You've reached Avalon, but the journey is only beginning. You are led to a great hall of glass and stone, where light refracts through polished crystal windows. The walls hum with energy, not magic in the spellbook sense, but something deeper. A resonance of peace, a tuning of the soul. This is the Tower of Healing, where Arthur was brought after Camelot. A woman greets you. She is tall, dressed in robes that shimmer like the surface of water. Her name is Nimue, though you've heard her called the Lady of the Lake. She places a hand on your chest, not as healer, but as reader. She sees everything. Your years in the village, your arrival in Arthur's world, your meetings with Merlin, your death, and your crossing. You have walked both land and legend, she says, but the wound you carry cannot be seen. It is the ache of knowing too much. She leads you to a pool of water so clear you can see both your reflection and your past. Not just your memories, but possibilities. Paths you never took, lives you never lived. You see yourself returning home, living quietly. Writing books no one reads, you see yourself in battle, in court, in silence. But Avalon is not about regret, it is about balance. The pool ripples, and you realize this place is not your end. It is your turning point. In the healing waters, you see Merlin again standing beside Arthur, speaking softly, not guiding, listening. And then you understand. You are not just witness to prophecy, you are becoming part of it. Time moves differently here. Days pass like hours, hours like dreams. The apple trees always bloom. The stars shift slowly in patterns unfamiliar to the mortal sky. You take residence in a tower half overgrown with ivy. It overlooks the sea in a circle of standing stones carved with the names of kings, some you know, some yet to come. You begin your new work, not as a scribe of tallies, but of memory, of myth, of the circle itself. You record every story that ever was, and those still unfolding. You write with ink made from midnight petals, on vellum cured under moonlight. You transcribe dreams from sleeping nights. You draw the spiral paths of stars not yet born. Other travelers pass through Avalon, some for a night, some for a lifetime, child with fire in her hands. Not in triumph, but in quiet need. A kingdom cries out. The land is broken, the stars align, and he goes. You watch from the shore, standing beside Merlin and Nimue. The mists part. The boat carries him away. No trumpets, no grand farewell. Only the whisper of water against the hull. You ask Merlin, will he win this time? Merlin only shrugs. It's not about winning, it's about returning. The wheel turns, the land calls, and someone must remember. Look to your scrolls, and you begin writing again. Avalon remains. Somewhere beyond storm and shore. Somewhere past memory and myth. A place not on maps but inside stories, where kings heal, where prophets wait, where you scribe, traveler, dreamer, keep the story alive. Close your eyes, let the mists rise, let the island call, and let sleep carry you back to Avalon, where the circle never ends. Beneath the orchard groves of Avalon, behind a silver door hidden by vines, lies the Hall of Forgotten Queens. You find it by accident, or perhaps it finds you. The entrance is marked only by a single symbol etched in stone, a circle surrounded by spirals. When you press your hand to it, the stone shimmers and gives way. Inside, silence. This is a hall not spoken of, even among Avalon scribes. Its walls are polished obsidian, reflecting faces that are not yours but could have been. Each alcove holds a statue carved from moonstone, cloaked in shadow. These are the rulers whose stories were never fully told, queens from lost kingdoms, matriarchs from legends that never reached parchment. You walk slowly. One statue holds a sword with flowers entwined around it. Another carries a child made of flame. A third wears armor of river glass. Their names have faded, but their presence hums in the air. And then one turns her head. Stone no longer. A woman with silver eyes and hair woven with frost steps from her pedestal. Every tale leaves someone in silence. You must write them. You kneel. Not in reverence, but understanding. You too were nearly forgotten. As you rise, a parchment appears in your hands. Blank but warm. This is your charge now. To recover what time lost. To write what was not remembered. And in doing so, to bring them back. The hall fades behind you, but the task never will. Deep within Avalon is a structure older than language, the library of endless tales. It has no fixed form. Sometimes it appears as a tower spiraling into clouds. Other times, a forest of scrolls growing like trees. To you, it appears as a cathedral of books built into the walls of a cave lit by starlight. The shelves rise beyond sight, curving inward like a snail shell. Lanterns drift freely through the air, guided by whispers. A monk greets you, cloaked in ink-stained robes, eyes blind but glowing faintly blue. He is called the Binder, the caretaker of stories still unfolding. Some stories, he says, wait centuries to be finished. Some never end. You are a page-turner. One of us now. He leads you to a table where books write themselves. One records your dreams. Another changes each time you touch it. A third is blank but bleeds ink from its spine when you speak. You notice a section labeled Other Worlds within it. The song of Sif and the broken hammer. The boat that carried Osiris, the firebird's last flight. The weaver of threads. These are new paths, new lives waiting. Not bound to Arthur, not bound to Britain. One volume bears your symbol, a raven inside a spiral. It glows softly when you touch it. The binder smiles. When you're ready, you may step through. You feel it. A threshold. Not death. Not travel. Reincarnation by memory. You step into the other story. The air is thicker now, spiced with cardamom and myrrh. You open your eyes in a desert of black sand, under a sky filled with constellations you do not recognize. You are no longer in Avalon. This is Egypt, or something like it. Your name is forgotten again. Your shape has changed, but your purpose remains. You carry the same memory, the silent calling of the scribe, the watcher, the dreamwalker. In this world, Thoth, god of writing and memory, greets you in the temple of time. He does not speak, he simply hands you a golden feather and a scroll of shadow. You know what to do. You begin transcribing legends never told. The pharaoh who spoke with stars. The servant who became the jackal guardian of gates. The queen who hid the moon inside her eye. Each tale draws you deeper. But the scroll grows longer. Eventually it wraps around your feet like a serpent. Voice echoes not from here, but from Avalon. Remember? Return when the wheel turns, and you know you will. In another age, you'll awaken again, perhaps in a Viking saga, or in a story told by firelight in the Andes, or as a dream inside someone centuries from now who thinks they only imagined a scribe walking through mists with Merlin. Welcome back, my friend. Thank you for returning to the world of Pendragon. We have news. The Dark Lord Mordred has met his end, and King Arthur is alive. We need to celebrate this glorious occasion, so let us raise our goblets high and drink deeply from them in honor of our hero. In fact, none of what we do here would matter if it weren't for you. As loyal knights, we must be ready to stand beside him, should the call to arms sound. The king is known for testing his potential new knights before accepting them into the fellowship. Will you step forward and offer your sword arm for the traditional trial by combat? A shrewd strategist who rallies the troops, an honorable defender of justice. It's time to return to the world of Pendragon. Your first instinct is to race out of the safety of the scriptorium, eager to see the daylight once more. Maybe even the king himself will clap you on the back and welcome you back to the world of the living. But you've been away for a long time, and while men may not remember your face, they will recognize your purpose. Without conscious thought, your hand reaches out and traces the letters you've been copying for nearly half a century. You awaken in a stone scriptorium, a monastery perhaps in Normandy or Glastonbury. The year is somewhere in the 1100s, and you are once again a scribe. You feel the familiar chill of the stone floor against your bare arms, though you recall none of how you came to be here. All you know is that you must copy the tales before you, stories that stir something deep within you, waiting to be awakened. The walls are thick with winter. The ink freezes in its well. You have returned to the age of written myth, the moment when Arthurian legends are not just lived, but recorded. The candle flickers as you trace the words. In those days, Arthur ruled as king, and the land was whole under him. You're surrounded by monks murmuring Latin prayers. But the manuscript in your hands is Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britannia, the first to canonize Arthur, not as legend whispered around fires, but as a historical king. Outside, troubadours begin to spread the story across the courts of France and England. The words on the page swim before your eyes. You cannot bring yourself to continue copying. You leave the scriptorium and walk through the cold halls until you find yourself in the chapter house. Here, monks are gathered in a circle, discussing a recent visitor. The very air crackled with excitement as he spoke of battles fought and won, and a young king whose stars shone brighter than any other. You know instinctively who he means, even though you cannot recall your own past. Arthur, the very mention of his name stirs something deep within you. You lean against the cold stone wall, listening intently. As soon as the bell rings, summoning you back to your labors, you slip out into the bailey. You are simply content to breathe deeply and revel in the vibrant colors of the world around you. But you know you cannot stay here. You need to see the king, eager to reach the royal court as quickly as possible. On the road, you meet a fellow traveler. He's a wandering minstrel, his lute strapped to his back and a wild glint in his eye, where knights from all over Britain have come to compete. And among them is a young lord named Arthur. He wears a crown of twisted leaves and carries a sword as bright as the sun. You hear these stories often, and yet each time you hear them, you arrive at the castle. Its ramparts gleam white against the sapphire sky, and banners bearing the lion rampant flutter in the breeze, their lances held high. Ladies in flowing gowns watch from the sidelines, their laughter tinkling like bells. Servants hurry to and fro. You dismount and tie your horse to a nearby post, then hurry through the gate and into the courtyard. It is a whirlwind of activity, and you find yourself swept up in the energy of the crowd. Then you see him. Arthur stands apart from the other nobles. He is talking to a tall man with a shock of white hair. You know, Arthur turns and your breath catches in your throat. With a final exchange of words, the older man turns and walks away. Arthur watches him go, his expression unreadable. For a moment, he seems lost in thought. Then he shakes his head as if to clear it and returns his attention to the jousting match. You have seen enough. You do not need to watch the rest of the tournament. You know who will win. Arthur's eyes are on the prize. His focus is absolute. He does not merely participate in the contests, he dominates them. Each blow he delivers is precise and powerful. Each thrust of his lance finds its mark. The crowds roar their approval and shower him with flowers and jewels, but Arthur pays them no heed. He's oblivious to everything except the task at hand. You shake off the last vestiges of your former life and throw yourself into the present. It is time to act, to make your presence known, and hopefully earn Arthur's favor. What do? Do you approach Arthur directly, eager to introduce yourself? Or do you bide your time watching him from afar and waiting for the perfect moment to strike up a conversation? The choice is yours. What will you do? No more the battlefield. Now you've walked the richly carpeted halls of a noble court, perhaps in Aquitaine or Winchester. Instead of steel, there's silk against your skin. Rich tapestries around you depict knights and monsters, saints and serpents. A fire crackles merrily in the hearth. Seated beside you is Detroit, the court poet of Queen Marie of Champagne. He is reciting poetry in a language you understand perfectly well, though I imagine some viewers might find it a little hard to follow. So let me explain as we go. Gone is the cynical postmodernism of my own time. Gone too are the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Instead, you are here in the court of King Arthur. And in this iteration of Camelot, Arthur's story is different once more. It is no longer only about wars. It's about virtue and temptation, about love and its unattainability, about devotion and its rewards. It is about the quest for the Holy Grail, a symbol of divine grace given to man. The Grail that you will find here is not a Roman dish, but a vessel of Christian mysticism. Finishes his poem and sighs. All around him, courtiers murmur their approval. In a forest dark, Sir Lancelot rides, heart torn between loyalty and love for the fair Guinevere. That last line hangs in the air long after it's finished. Guinevere becomes a symbol of unattainable purity, of human longing for what it can never have. But do not worry, young viewer, for she is safe in this iteration of the tale. She is safe in Arthur's arms, for now anyway, around you, noble lords. And ladies titter at clever verses. They sip spiced wine and watch the fire dance. Some play chess on tables nearby, while others whisper conspiratorially to one another. One brave soul strums a harp, but quickly stops when a regal lady glares his way. Soon enough, the harp is silent and all eyes return to. He is beloved here in this court, not least because he spins the kind of tales that make their listeners feel very superior indeed. These stories elevate them above the brutish Saxons or the decadent Romans. They remind these nobles of the chivalric virtues they are expected to uphold. Does not write crass war stories. He writes of virtue, of romance, of deeds that bring renown. And so the stories become an important part of the courtly culture of the day. He writes of wizards and marvels, yes, but also of courtesy, pity, and above all, of love. There's a knock at the door, and in walks a lord carrying a flagon of wine. My friend, he says, you are summoned to the royal dais. The king wishes to hear a new tale. Bows low and rises, and then looks back at you, smiling. Care to join me, friend? Come, we are off to see the king. You rise, bow to the queen, and follow into the night. The two of you walk together down moonlit corridors until you reach a chamber lit with flickering candlelight. Inside, the king sits upon a raised dais, and he beckons you forward with a hand. Come sit with me, good sir, and tell me a tale. You know full well you haven't the faintest idea how to start such a yarn, but squeezes your shoulder reassuringly. When you look back at the king, you see not only Arthur, but Merlin too. Oh dear. Well, you clear your throat and begin. The king listens intently, nodding his head. Sometimes he grunts his approval. Sometimes he leans forward, eager to hear what happens next. Occasionally, he reaches for his flagon of wine, but he doesn't drink. No, he holds it aloft, offering a silent toast to whatever heroic night you are celebrating. Perhaps it is a toast to yourself. Beside you, Merlin murmurs. Occasionally he jests, but for the most part, he too is hanging on your every word. The tale you tell may just save the day. And so you keep talking. Nods sagely, the queen looks thoughtful, and the king leans closer still. Time itself seems to pass more quickly than ever before. Time to spin a yarn, eh? Let's get started. What sort of hero are you tonight? Are you a noble knight of the Round Table? Are you a fearsome sorceress from the farthest marches of the world? Or perhaps you are a lowly swineherd who stumbles into adventure. Whatever role you choose, you will be lauded for it. The audience is ready, are you? So let the game begin. Afterward, claps you on the shoulder. Well done, my friend. You held the court's attention. You have my congratulations. As the other courtiers drift away, chatting about this or that, pulls you aside. Tell me, are you enjoying your stay in Camelot? I am indeed, you say, but you must be careful here. For all its beauty, Camelot can be a dangerous place. You look at him, puzzled. He smiles knowingly. Beware the wiles of the Fae. They are strong in these parts. You'd best stick close to me for the moment. Do you understand? You nod and follow him as he leads you through the halls. There are those here who would do you ill will. Those who do not welcome strangers in their midst. I think it wise that we speak not of where we met, nor of where we come from. Indeed, I think it wise that we speak not at all, at least for a little while yet. He glances back over his shoulder and whispers, Do you understand? You nod and he smiles. Then we are agreed. Outside, the moon is heavy in the sky, and the wind rattles the window panes. The hall is silent except for the crackling of the fire. You walk in silence beside. Suddenly a company of minstrels enters, each with a lute or harp. At their head walks a portly man in a green and gold robe. He raises his hand, and they fall silent. "Welcome, good sirs and gentle dames," he cries. "We've come to hold a contest of skill. Our noble queen desires to hear the boldest quest, the greatest tale of adventure, of daring deeds and dragons slain." Lays a hand on your arm. "Perhaps you'd care to try your hand at that, friend." You shake your head, but he is already striding toward the robed man. "Hold, minstrel," he cries. "This newcomer is no foolhardy youth. I vouch for him. If he speaks, it shall be a tale to shame all bards and minstrels of this court." The robed man's eyes narrow, but he shrugs and steps aside. "Very well, stranger, you have the floor." Everyone looks at you expectantly. Your mind races. Firelight dances before your eyes. All around you, nobles stir in their seats, eager to hear your tale. The queen watches you closely. Her lips are parted slightly, her chin tilted up. The king sits in his high seat, drumming his fingers on his throne. The pressure is immense, but you must rise to it. All eyes are upon you. The minstrel gives you a sharp look, then turns away and tunes his harp. The queen speaks first. "Tell us a tale, stranger, of Arthur and his knights, of magic spells and quests fulfilled." She pauses, and as you open your mouth to respond, she adds, "Speak wisely, traveler, and you shall be rewarded." You hesitate, then take a deep breath. There are countless stories in your head, a jumble of battles fought, of quests undertaken, of sorcery wielded, and of great victories won. But you pick one in particular, a story of a knight who rode abroad to win the fairest lady in the world. A quest filled with peril and hardship, but which in the end proved successful. The minstrel nods his head slowly, tapping his foot on the ground like a metronome. When you pause, he urges you onward with a sharp look. The queen leans forward, her hands folded in her lap. The king watches impassively, his gaze unwavering. You continue your tale. As dawn breaks, you finish your story. Silence falls over the court. Then the queen speaks. "Fine tale, stranger, and you told it well. Come, sit with us, and enjoy the morning." With a slight bow, you take a seat at the high table. Around you, the courtiers begin to stir, their voices rising in excited chatter. The queen beams at you. "You have honored our court, stranger. Tell me, how may we repay you?" She pauses, glancing at your sword. "Is there anything you desire? Gold, jewels, perhaps a noble steed?" You smile, shaking your head. "No, thank you. I seek something different." The queen looks puzzled. You continue? "There are children playing here in the court, children with wooden swords. They do not know what runes are etched upon the blades, but they fight valiantly nonetheless. May I have one of those swords? I would keep it as a souvenir of my visit to this wonderful place." The queen smiles, her eyes twinkling. "As you wish, stranger." A small child approaches hesitantly. In his hand he holds a simple wooden sword. "Here, stranger," he says shyly. "May I?" You kneel down to his level, take the sword from him, and examine it. "Thank you, little one. This will be a fine memento." The boy beams, then scampers away to rejoin the other children. You rise and turn back to the queen. "May I also ask for the name of the fair maiden who graced my tale so well? I would send her a token of my appreciation." The queen smiles. "She is called Guinevere. I will ensure your gift reaches her." You smile back, grateful for her kindness. Now, as you prepare to depart, the queen beckons you close. "Before you leave, stranger, I must warn you. Avalon is real. You need only believe." Her voice is low, urgent. "Avalon is real," she repeats, "if you believe it should be." You pause, considering her cryptic words. "So, too, is the Grail, if you believe." The queen's eyes meet yours, intense, unwavering. "All of it is real if you believe." You step back, stunned by her fervor. The queen continues, "And remember this. Stranger stories shape the world. Stories make things real. And you are a storyteller, whether you know it or not." She steps closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "When you leave here, when you go out into the world, remember what I have said. Believe in the story, and the story will believe in you." You nod slowly, absorbing her words. As you take your leave of the court, you hear the sound of children's laughter echoing through the halls. They play with wooden swords, reenacting tales of valor and daring. And in the grand hall, the fire crackles merrily, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, the sun shines brightly, promising a new day. You breathe deeply, feeling the warmth on your skin, and listen to the birds singing in the trees. You are leaving Avalon behind, but the queen's words echo in your ears. Avalon is real, she had said, if you believe. You smile, realizing that sometimes belief is all that is needed to make a story come true. It is time for bed, little one. The day is done, the fire is low. Come, rest your head upon my knee. Let the tales wash over you like water from an ancient well, soothing and slow. Sleep now, legend walker. Your journey does not end. You are the dream that connects all stories, the quill behind every myth, the soul that steps through mists again and again. Somewhere, Avalon still waits.
Ow.
Somewhere, a scroll still unfurls. Somewhere you are already being remembered. In dreams, you'll walk with phantoms who have long since crossed the veil, and hear the whispers of the wind as it sighs through the branches bare. And when the sun climbs high in the sky, all earthly bounds and memories fly. For I will seek you out once more to share with you more tales from times of yore, and so it goes, forevermore. You wake, and with you, the tales I told will linger yet, a half-remembered dream, a whisper on the breeze, a fleeting gleam. May your dreams write new legends by morning. In dreams you'll wander through the halls of memories where echoes linger still and time stands still. You are the keeper of these tales, the weaver of the dreams, the one who walks between the worlds unseen, the silent watcher at the gate of dawn.
Ow.
The old oak sleeps beneath the snow, the ivy curled around its bark. No longer does the wind complain of winter's bite, nor does the cold night air grow still. For even in the darkest night, the fire of life burns bright within the heart of every living thing, be it bird or beast or fairy, king or queen, or any mortal soul that walks and talks and feels the sun's warm light caress their skin. Every living thing, no matter how small or great, has a story to tell and a fate to meet. And you, little listener, with eyes so bright and filled with wonder, you have walked with me through mists of ages past and heard the songs the bards once played. Now close your eyes and drift away to lands where shadows dance and lovers sigh, where ancient evils stir and dreams take flight, where magic weaves its spells by pale moonlight. In dreams you'll find the answers that your waking mind has sought. When morning light begins to creep, the veil grows thin between the worlds asleep. But know this, little listener, though we part at dawn, our paths will intertwine again when night has come. Subscribe to Boring Tales of the History for more quiet journeys through forgotten time. Good night, traveler of tales.